Don't look now, but there's something really small stalking you. Here's your look at the Good Smile Company, Nendoroid number 1845, The Predator. From Predator comes the Nendoroid of the Predator. The Nendoroid is a fully articulated, allowing you to create a variety of action-packed poses from the film. Both a masked faceplate and terrifying unmasked faceplate are included. The Predator's wrist blade, a plasma caster effect piece, his self-destruct device, and a spine and skull part are all included as optional parts. Enjoy mixing and matching optional parts to create all kinds of situations in Nendoroid form. I'm sure you'd be hard-pressed to find this Predator if he was just lurking in the jungle, just by how small, of course, he actually is. While we figure out just how small he is, I actually did find this one over on Entertainment Earth. If you guys are interested and are either big fans of Predator or you're a big fan of Nendoroids and didn't even know this Predator existed, you can click the link down below in the video description. That link, of course, will take you right directly to the listing of the Nendoroid Predator, but also by using that link, it'll save you 10% on anything you find on their site that's currently in stock. Predator, though, in the meantime, as small as he is, stands only about 3.5 inches in height, or I would say the figure's only about almost 9 centimeters tall. Now, when it comes to Nendoroids, the person behind the camera doesn't really have a lot that I can use to compare along with the Predator, but I do have one, my personal favorite. Happens to be Kirby. The neat thing also about this Kirby, and I already had did a review of this guy like many years ago, but the neat thing about this one is that it actually had magnets, so you could just like move the arms around freely. I mean, you could have his arm up there, for example, you could have his leg moving forward. Of course, it will cause some stability issues just simply because, again, like you will want his feet a little bit more firmly planted. But though, just to compare him along with the Predator, never would the two ever exist in the same universe. Could you imagine, though, if that was the case, with Kirby, of course, having the ability to absorb the abilities of any of his enemies that he swallows? Could you imagine what a Kirby would look like swallowing a Yautja? I'll leave that to you to think about. In the meantime, though, when you're comparing the two, I mean, it really would be hard to say, because Kirby really doesn't even have legs and only has stumps for arms. But in this case, I would say like the Nendoroid Predator is about double the height of the Kirby to his left. And while we may have started things with Kirby to his left, we're now going to look at the accessories, sort of to his left, and with a skull, though, to the side. First, though, to the left, the figure comes included with a Nendoroid display stand. The stand itself looks like it's been made of Swiss cheese, has many series of holes, several at the top, and then working our way to the middle. If I was sitting in a movie theater, by the way, I would be sitting right here, center, middle. Though in this case, if I did want to have the display stand attached onto the back of the Predator, I prefer, though, the back of the theater this time around. The neat thing about it, though, is that you can just simply detach this and put this anywhere that you want. If you want to have it right in the middle, you can do that. If you want to, again, have it off to the corner, hey, that might be a fun idea, too. Instead of having the stand like this, you could have the stand like this and then just simply attach the display stand to the back. In regards, though, to the stand, it does have, well, first of all, it can swivel back and forth, but then it has a knuckle joint here, a knuckle joint here, follow along with me, a knuckle joint here. And between all those, you can then bend the neck any which way that you want. Well, within the reasons, of course, of having those three bending joints. But then what you will want to do is just take your Predator. He's really large, at least in the sense of his head, so he's going to have a little bit of balancing issues. But if you flip the figure around and sort of part the drapes, on the back of the figure's body, in between his bone bandoliers, you can see that there's a hole right there. Can you see it okay? I hope so. Just simply take the peg that's provided, fit it onto the back of the figure's body, and then you've got yourself basically like a Predator on a stand. Now, I mean, right now it looks a little ridiculous, I'm sure, because it just looks like somebody's kind of carrying by his scruff, kind of like a mama cat carrying around a little kitten. But yeah, if you wanted to, you can also just straighten out the neck a little bit. I think at the beginning of this video, I had the Predator sort of more of in a running pose, sort of like he's running on top of air. But that's one way you can also display the figure as well. While the Predator is sort of just hanging around, the figure also, though, comes included with a skull. I really like the look of the skull. I mean, it's sort of simplistic by the way they've executed this, and of course it has to be an oversized head to make then the proportions in scale with the Predator, but the head is really interesting. I mean, again, it doesn't have a lot of paint going for it, but it does have at least a ball joint hinge, so you can rotate the head up and down, you can move it back and forth, you can actually even open and close the mouth only just by a little bit. I think actually there's no real hinge on it, but just because, again, like it's a softer plastic, you can warp it just a little bit. So if you wanted to heat this up with, say, hot water, you probably would be able to bend the jaw a little bit more open than what it is right now. But it does have, again, attached to the spinal cord. You'll also notice as well, it attaches onto the end by this bottom clip piece. It plugs in place by this peg, or this little post, fits into the hole that's provided on the bottom, and then this just simply attaches onto the stand. So at least it sort of has like a place to store itself if you wanted to have it displayed along with the Predator. Now, he doesn't have the means to hold the skull. Like if, for example, we look at the hands, as small as they may be, the hands are like kind of more gestured hands, but nearly not the grip needed in order to, of course, hold properly the skull. And it would just be adding a lot of additional weight to it. So it's more to sort of just kind of get them displayed along with it. You can kind of put it onto the adjustable stand. The thing about it, though, is with the Predator already occupying as much space as he does, there really isn't a whole lot of space for then the skull to stand. You may have to have it kind of standing separately. Of course, the plasma caster got also in the way as well. Now, this does detach too. You can simply just remove it from then the spinal cord if you want to just have the skull on its own. And then, of course, you'll have the spinal cord on its own. You can also then take the post, fit the post on the bottom of it, because, of course, it's all using the same sized pegs. You can have the neck like this, for example, if you want to just have a smaller skull presented with the Predator. He does also come included with this. Now, by the instructions alone, it only mentions this being kind of like an extension peg. I don't really think it doesn't seem to have a purpose that I can see. But one thing it can do also as well is it can attach onto the bottom of the skull. So like if, for example, you wanted to have it like this, he doesn't have a gripping hand still, so he doesn't have the means to hold it this way. But you can also use that extension peg to plug the skull in the front of the stand as well. There's a couple of different purposes then for that skull. So I like that. I still don't know necessarily why that little extension peg is there. It doesn't seem to serve a purpose, at least when it comes to the Predator, but at least it comes included with the figure. Let's just kind of move everything out of the way. I'm making a bit of a mess. One thing that the figure also comes included with is a plasma caster firing effect piece. Essentially, it's a translucent blue plastic that fits then onto the nozzle on the end of the plasma caster, so it looks like the Predator is actually shooting his blaster out. That looks pretty cool. The figure also, though, comes included with some swapped out parts that you can then change with his hands. He has, for example, the shorter length prongs, the little little blades that he has. I was having a hard time getting that all out. But he has this sort of just extending out from the gauntlet. If you, though, prefer to have a longer series of blades, then you just remove these from the end of it and then just put these back from where you found them. Well, we're not putting the original ones back. We're going to put the longer blades in instead. You want to make sure, though, that you got them far enough in there. There's a few times that I haven't put them in all the way, and then I went to move the Predator, and pew, it went across the room. I had to go retrieve the blades. The other thing he also comes included with, speaking of small parts, is he comes with a little cover piece for his other gauntlet. Of course, in the movie, he does have this as his sort of self-destruct mechanism. It's basically like this little compact that then fits over top of the piece that we just removed. Well, it doesn't fit in the place of, or it fits replacing the other piece. And now he's also got himself the little countdown display. It doesn't really actually have any numbers on it. It looks just black right now, so I think we don't have anything to really worry about. So then the Predator has basically all the other things except for the only thing we have yet to cover is the replaceable faceplate. I'm just going to, for right now, put this back in because, of course, when it comes to moving the figure around, I just dropped the hand. I'm going to have to retrieve that. I see where it is right now, and actually maybe while we have... Bear with me. I maybe even have it facing the wrong way. Let's just plug that back in place because I don't definitely want to lose these. These are all things, by the way, that can so easily be lost if you're not too careful. I have the hand retrieved right here. Actually, while we have the hand already removed, I'm going to take one of the gestured hands. Simply, it's just a case of you're taking the peg on the end of it, and you're just going to line it up and fit it into the hole. And now the Predator has his open hand. Just again, be careful of it because there's a lot of things on this Predator that fall off frequently, like his hands, like the little cover piece that goes over top of the gauntlet, and then, of course, the blade. Those are all things that are very prone to falling off. The Predator also comes included with a removable faceplate, which we'll pick up right now. Show you guys what that looks like, the difference between the two. Personally, for me, when it comes to displaying the Predator, I'm more in line, I think, to display him with the mask myself. But if you want to go with the unmasked, that's certainly available also as well. And I like the option that they gave you. It's also quite easy to remove. You're simply just going to take the front piece off and replace it with this, which I'll do more in a moment. First, though, I want to show you guys what the head sculpt looks like with the helmet in place. Truly, I feel to be the superior of the two heads, just because I always really like the Predator with the helmets more so on. He has like a little... kind of like a star deco that he's got painted on the top. I can't tell whether that's supposed to be reflection or battle damage to the helmet. Judging by the fact it's actually dark, I would imagine that that's damage to the helmet, but I could also be wrong as well. But head sculpt wise, it's really quite good. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of paint other than just like the shinier silver that they've used here. Of course, when we flip it around to the back, one thing that's really neat also about the Predator is that he does have individual peg joints to move the dreads. Now, this piece in the middle only has one joint, so it's basically connecting all of these together as one single drape. The ones, though, to the side are slightly smaller, and again, they have ball joints too, so you can move them back and forth. Don't worry, I'll show you guys what that looks like in a moment when I remove the faceplate. Of course, he does have a very large plasma caster, traditional-looking jungle predator design. He's paler in the skin, but it does look quite good on the figure. Of course, he's got little skull bandoliers there draped across the front of his body here and here. And the figure has some nice silver finish that they've done to the armor as well. Now, again, if you did want to change the face, it's really quite easy. All you're going to have to do is just take the front and yank it off. You don't have to be so aggressive with that, but you're just going to yank that off. It kind of looks like a bit of a face as well. Maybe not. But just to show you, though, like now that we've kind of taken the hood off, you can kind of see, maybe you can see that the way that they plug in place, they're just basically attached by ball joints. So like this moves over here, and the back moves also as well. Let's give Predator at least a face. If you look on the back of the Predator's body, or back of the faceplate at least, you can see like there's an equally rectangular shaped peg hole that then fits over top of this one. I'm just going to fit it in place. Put enough pressure, of course, that the face isn't going to fall off. And that's what the Predator looks like. It looks good, but honestly, I kind of like the other head sculpt just a little bit more, the other faceplate a little bit more. This does at least give you a chance to see some additional paint work that wasn't there before. So all this nice additional airbrushing of brown, not to mention the spotting that he has on the top of his head crest. And of course, he now has the visible mandibles, which look really quite good on the Predator. The figure looks quite good. The only thing about it, though, is with his head being the size that it is, it does make his body, I feel, very loose. Or at least like the bottom half of his body, on mine at least, is very loose at the ball joint here. For the figure's articulation, the plasma caster, first of all, can move back and forth, but it can also move up and down. It actually is pegged in two places. So there's a ball joint right here. There's a ball joint right here. I'm doing my best to try to get my fingers out of the way of things. But those move in two places. Then the head itself is actually on a ball joint. So you can move it up. Move it back a little bit. You can move it up. You can move it down. You can also move it back and forth. And as we've already established, all of the hairs, or at least this section of his hair, is on a ball joint. So you can move that back and forth, up and down. And you can also move these back and forth as well. So if you want to have like a crazier looking hairstyle, you can just fan those out a little bit more on the back. The upper torso, as loose as unfortunately it is on mine, does have a ball joint, so you can rotate it all the way around. The figure has a waist swivel. Arms are ball joints too, so you can move them out, obviously, forward and back. Figure has a swivel in his bicep. Figure has only just a single hinge in his elbow, and the hands rotate all the way around. The legs can't really split too far. You only go about to here. You can move them forward. You can move them back. There's just a single hinge. Again, a little loose on mine, but there's a single hinge here. No articulation really from like the knee down necessarily, but then he does also have toe articulation, or foot articulation, I should say, that moves up and down this way, and you can also rock it back and forth this way as well. If you're having any difficult time to have the figure stand, obviously you can always go the route of just attaching him back onto the display stand peg, and that just again plugs onto the back of the figure's body. You really again want to make sure it's all the way in there, because there's a few times that I've actually put that in place, thinking it was in place, and then the poor Predator took a tumble. All in all, it's a nice looking Predator. I mean, it may not be everyone's thing. Nendoroids, or Nendoroids, as some people pronounce it as well. I don't even know which one it would really be. But like, some people may not like the design of it. It's overly stylized. Of course, you've got a very large head for the Predator, a very tiny little body. But I kind of like it. There's some charm that goes along with the fact that these are kind of super stylized figures. And while maybe, again, I may not be displaying it with Kirby, I do kind of like the idea that Predator is being represented here from a very small figure standpoint. For me at least, I still will be going back to the idea of displaying the figure with the helmet, because I just think it's the better of the two. But it is still a nice looking figure from the folks over at Good Smile Company. At the time of shooting this review, the Nendoroid Predator is currently in stock over on Entertainment Earth for $94.99, so it's about $95. Granted, as well, if you decide to use the link and want to pick this one up for yourself, that link will also drop 10% off the purchase. That goes across the board as well for anything that's currently in stock over on Entertainment Earth. Going back, though, to the Predator, I like the design of it. And as I said, kind of wrapping up the end of this review, I know not everyone's going to kind of enjoy this. You have to kind of be in the vein of collecting both the Predator figures and kind of the cutesier looking figures, because I think the Predator falls into both categories. Maybe the Nendoroids, for example, might be something more akin to you that you want to pick up for like a Kirby, because Kirby's cute, Kirby's round. I think it worked really well for a Nendoroid, and maybe you might just say to yourself, you know what, I don't know if it works as well for the Predator. Okay, maybe it may not apply to you. But though, like, if you look at him, there's some charm, I would say, to the figure. I mean, again, like, he's got some pretty good posability considering the size that he is, and the fact he has enough swapped out parts. I didn't have the self-destruct mechanism armed because, of course, I know it wouldn't give you guys enough time to kind of clear the room after we're wrapping up things for this review. But I did, though, leave the longer blade on the end of his other gauntlet. Just, though, be careful of those added pieces. Both the blades, as well as that little console he has on his arm, are very prone to popping off as well for his hands. So while you're moving the figure around, if you happen to get this one for yourself, just be careful that those pieces don't fall off and don't get lost to the floor. The blade did for me. It went pew, across the room. At least I was able to find it before my cat did. But what do you guys think of the Nendoroid? Let me know down below in the comments section. Could you guys see this as being one that you would be collecting and adding it to your collection? Or if you are already collecting the Good Smile Company Nendoroid figures, let me know, first of all, is it Nendoroid? I think it's Nendoroid. But let me know which ones you have in your collection and if you guys could see yourselves picking up the Predator as well. If you guys enjoyed this video, I want to hit with a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing and certainly do want to stick around for more, I may not promise the fact that we have more Nendoroid reviews coming your way, but we may very well have more Predator reviews on the horizon. So if that's the kind of thing you like to come back to this channel for, first of all, you can also check out the playlist at the end of this video that will be for Predators. So feel free to give a gander at all the other things I've looked at from Predators over the years. But make sure, you're coming back on a regular basis because there's always new content coming your way. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.